And we will start with this one here about Nvidia. So this is interesting. So we have a lot of people reacting very differently to Chinese tech now. So China unveiled a gaming GPU that is set to challenge Nvidia. And one of the responses here is, aren't you worried there's going to be spyware on these? He's saying, MF, I don't care. The U.S. government in Israel already listens to all my shit. Why do I care if the Chinese government listens in on it? All they're going to hear is me yearning for bad bitches who play combo decks. I'll let you react first, but it's interesting the shift.
I mean, that's true. Like, this is a very common, like, China scary story. Like, they bug everything. There's like malevolent chips, the red chip they put on your motherboard. Chinese cars will listen to your conversation, but like, why? what value does Xi Jinping derive from listening to the conversation of ordinary Americans? I mean, but on the other hand, this is 100% projection, because Palantir do monitor and survey Americans, and Palantir is fully backed by Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Actually, Palantir it controls the White House, because we have the Palantir founder Peter Thiel. He has his own candidate in the Washington right now, and that's JD Vance. So yeah, so that's a reality, but a lot of times they always try to project to China. There was a recent article, this recent investigative report that United States AI company, particularly OpenAI, was actually paying influencers like $5,000 per post to talk shit about Chinese AI. How Chinese, we cannot let China win because the Chinese AI. You don't want a Chinese AI to control everything. But what they don't tell you is their plan is exactly for OpenAI, Palantir, these companies to control all American lives.
Yeah. I mean, but the reaction is really different now, where people are kind of thinking about it and like, first of all, this doesn't even make sense. Like you said, like, what are they going to spy on? Are they want to know what I thought of the last episode of the Kardashians? Like, what could they possibly want to hear from your conversations? And even if you want to take that at face value, it's like, so what can they actually do with that? With the U.S. government and Israel listening in on your conversations, there are actual things that will happen to you. And so that's why people are like, A, this doesn't make sense. B, even if it did, who cares? And that's why when they banned TikTok, they were like, what are you talking about? The Chinese government might steal my data. I'll give it to them voluntarily. Now I'm going to sign up for Red Note, which is actually a full-on Chinese-controlled, Chinese-based app. Like, so I don't care if they, know what I thought about the last episode of whatever it is they're watching.
That's a point I keep on trying to bring up. It's like, look, I'm okay with Chinese government have my data because Chinese government don't have jurisdiction over me. But because I'm American citizen, I do worry about Palantir spy on me, because FBI and all these Chinese government agencies, they can't do something to me, and they probably will if they find something. But yeah, so non-issue.
Yeah. And in addition to realizing how silly the narrative is, and again, like thinking about what are the implications, even if it were true, which there's no evidence of it being, people are also looking at things differently for another reason too, and looking more positively at Chinese products. And this kind of gets to it. People really need to stop hating on China, man. Every time I'm in a pickle, it's China saving me. Gas prices too high, I'm riding in the BYD. DRAM costs an arm and a leg, CXMT floods the market. Anthropic and OpenAI effing me on token costs. Hello, my friend, Mr. Quen. The CCP has done more for my cost of living than my government.
That is true. China has enabled middle-class lifestyle all across the world, not just in the Western world either, also in places in global South like Africa. Now everybody from Indonesia to Kenya can afford a smartphone, and that's thanks to China made everything cheaper.
Yeah. It reminds me of a speech that Obama did in Africa, where he was saying the world can't afford for Africans to live like Americans do, and how condescending is that? that that's almost getting people on side with saying, okay, you know what, maybe we got to hold these people back. But like you said, again, China is making this kind of a better lifestyle possible for so many people in places like Africa and beyond.
They used to make that same argument about China too. I mean, the big talk point back in like 1990s and 2000 is like, oh my God, what if the Chinese people decide to adopt eat as much as Americans, right? Like the world will starve, will run out of food. But actually today, on average, Chinese consume more protein than Americans. We're still okay. The world's still okay.
We're going to get to a few topics that cover later on in this that I've got lined up that cover this idea of China becoming greater polluters when they rise, or the idea that we should worry about how much food they're consuming. There's a bunch of stuff that ties into that, but we'll get to that in a second. I'm going to share something a little bit more fun first. This is your tweet. I put this forward to do this. So people were scared to use Chengdu Metro Line 13 because it's driverless. The Metro solution was to put a guy who sits in the front and pretends he's the driver. There are no controls, and he's not allowed to play his mobile phone. His job is to just be there to make people comfortable. I'm gonna play the video first, and then you can talk about it. It's actually really funny. Here we go.
以为是车长，没想到是人质。杀到成都地铁13号线，因为是无人驾驶，反而呢大众都不敢坐了。为了让大家放心，就搞了个人坐着，主打一个心理安慰的作用。有的还配了保安陪着，只有椅子没有操作台，就坐在这硬开，甚至驾驶区和乘客之间没有做任何隔离，每天穿着工服被人民群众监督，不能摸鱼，不能玩手机，还要在群众的注视下假装开车，每天陪着他们看隧道，简直看迷坐牢。武汉的甚至连把椅子也没有，遇到不懂事的还要被问司机能不能让个座，我不行了，觉得尴尬的可以来看看无人驾驶的地铁车长。
Okay. They didn't even have a seat for the guy who's pretending to the operator on the Wuhan metro. He was just standing there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at that. Like the level of care that goes into saying, okay, people are a little bit uncomfortable with this. There's going to be a little bit of a transition period. Let's figure out how we can make this as stress-free as possible for people who have a little bit of anxiety about the future of autonomous vehicles. I think that's great. Yeah. And then we have, so this goes into what we were talking about before also, with China having more than enough food for themselves, and that being a problem for some people. China should stop hoarding food and fertilizer, says former World Bank chief. And I'll go into one of the reaction tweets to that, and then you can give us your reaction too. When China suffered Great Famine in the end of the 1950s, U.S. denied China from buying grains. It even spreaded the words that Mao allowed it to happen, and tens of millions of Chinese died. Chinese people could not do anything but endure. They learned that they can only rely on themselves. Fast forward to today. Now the U.S.-led World Bank is accusing China for hoarding food and fertilizer. The irony. Before you react to that, too, I want to say that they really get involved in this a lot. There was, I can't remember the name of the country. It might come to me later on. It was in Africa, where one of the conditions for the IMF loans that they received was that they got rid of their grain storage facilities. And sometimes this is designed in such a way that it creates a system where they have to rely on imports more. And then they have to, for example, bring in U.S. grain or product.
Yes.
It's a very selfish system. And that led directly to a famine in that country where a lot of people died. And so they have no credibility and they have no right to be talking about this or lecturing people about it. I'll get your reaction first before we move on.
And this is typical gaslighting. The whole fertilizer problem, who created the fertilizer problem, is because U.S. and Israel started an illegal war against Iran, and that closed down the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, like there wasn't a fertilizer supply problem before. Now there is. Again, they're trying to turn it around and blame China. What China was trying to do is they're trying to make sure their domestic producers get enough fertilizer so they can continue to produce food. I mean, that's just sensible policy.
Yeah. And there's also, when you consider what China's done for the world with Chen, I don't know if I've said his name correctly, where he created the hybrid rice, which is responsible for feeding millions and millions of people around the world. And it's a tragedy that he never won the Nobel Peace Prize in any category when, well, I mean, it's not surprising when you realize how politicized it is and you get some random activist from China winning it, who never did anything for the global population. But China has been responsible for feeding millions and millions and millions of people because of its tech that it open sourced to the world. But
Well,
yeah.
yeah, Yuan Longchen did that. But if you speaking of Nobel Peace Prize, with all these economists winning the Nobel Prize in economics, you look at China. China is actually, lifted 800 million people out of poverty. You don't hear anything about any Chinese economists or Chinese government officials winning the Nobel Peace Prize in economics. But in reality, it's a lot different. It's they're actually changing facts on the ground.
Yeah, there's the name. I butchered it. Yeah, Yuan Longping. I should have remembered that. But yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about. All right, now, okay, yeah, still food related. Your bowl of rice is hurting the climate too. So instead of blaming the billionaires and their private jets, they're blaming Asians for climate change. I've heard it all now. Your reaction, Carl?
I mean, this is just we're getting into like the parody level now. Like, like you don't need the onions anymore. This headline just writes itself. Exactly. You have United States military, one of the top polluter of the world. No, that they're not the problem. It's all you Asians who eat rice. That is the real problem. Not the U.S. military that's sailing halfway across the world, burning oil to bomb another country.
Yep. And still on the topic of China's rise and how they try to criticize it all the time, this is a common one where they talk about, so this guy says the media loves calling the U.S. the climate villain while praising China as the green leader, but China burns more coal than the rest of the world combined. Narrative versus reality. This this tweet was written from a device that had its carbon footprint offshored to China, by the way. China is making the world's products. And even though they're making all of the world's products, they still have a lower per capita emissions rate than the US. So they managed to do that, be the factory for the world, and still pollute less on a per capita basis than the U.S. And this is, the same level, maybe not as obvious as the rice one, but it's the same level of desperation. But this one actually does trick people sometimes when they're doing this, and they're like, oh, look at this, China's polluting, while they're literally holding the device that had its carbon footprint offshore to China. Carl.
No, exactly. It's the Wall Street types that outsource all the manufacturing together with all the pollution to China. That was by design. That was not a bug. That was a feature to offsource all the pollution, all the dirty jobs to China, and then they get to blame China for polluting the environment when China is making everything. And but what China is doing now is actually saving the world, because China's carbon emissions has either plateau or falling for the last couple of years. And this is huge. This is while the Chinese economy continue to grow, its export continue to grow. This China managed to do that by massively ramping up renewables, particularly solar, wind, and they're also going in a big way into nuclear as well. So, and this is helping reducing the China is actually doing the most to confront the global climate change right now. More than any other policies of Western world.
Yeah, that's true. You when you had these Western countries that went through this industrial revolution, like the modern industrial revolution a lot earlier, you didn't have a power greater than them that had done it before then and continually pointed fingers at them and criticized, oh, look what you're doing, following the same path we did before. But, and that's not even accurate to say that, because like you said, in this modernization, they are putting such a heavy focus on renewable technology, whether it be solar, hydro, nuclear. They have that new nuclear fusion that they did, what burns hotter than the temperature of the sun, sustained it for a record period of time, storing electricity in pressure, and doing all kinds of innovative stuff. And this is the constant thing where you have these powers that have already developed who are trying to hold people back by saying, no, you can't do this, even though that they went through an even dirtier path to get where they are.
Yeah, during the first industrial revolution, during the first and second industrial revolution, it was mostly powered by coal, which is way dirtier than oil and gas.
Right.